Thought we was playing? Y'all thought this was for play, huh? Nah, this is serious business. Now, ladies and gentlemen, with no further ado,
For believers, they're spitting truth up in the stew.
Okay.
Each with different flavors, you can savor, you can chew. Talking life, love, and Christ, just to name a few. Grab a seat at the table, we got a bowl that's just for you.
Okay.
Trey, stay whipping up the work in the kitchen. And Whit, we can't keep up with the heat that she be dishing. And height, he had the sight, he was blessed with the vision. And me, I'm in the back, I'll be handling the dishes. I hope you don't mind if I speed it up. Stay at the beat as I beat it up. Serving it cold, you can heat it up. The food is good, you should eat it up. Thank the Lord for redeeming us, for the four of us teaming up. Lifestyle was dirty, he cleaned it up. Gave us a voice, now we speaking up.
told y'all. And that's light work. I had to contain him from giving y'all more. That's light work. Stay tuned. Watching us grow, and we had to bring it back for season 2 and do it again when we leveled up a little bit. So I appreciate you. Trey, why don't you bring in our other guest?
Yes, my good friend, Pastor Wesley Hawthorne.
Hey, Pastor Wesley Hawthorne.
Yes. Tell the people about yourself and your hair care routine.
That's
Please tell
That's
me.
not what we're here to talk about.
Curl sponsored by Maybelline.
Definitely not, but I appreciate you, man. Appreciate you for having me on here, man.
Where do you preach at?
I actually preach. I'm a youth pastor at New Life Fellowship in Arlington.
Okay, New Life Fellowship in Arlington. Thank you for letting us, for gracing us with your youth pastor. How long you been doing that?
Yeah, man. Just a little over a year now.
Little over a year.
Yeah, not too long, but enjoying it.
What inspired you to get involved in youth pastoring?
Yeah, man. I mean, that's.
He was like, that's $50 per head and 20 kids per Sunday, 4 Sundays per month. Yeah, I can do that.
Pizza every other Wednesday.
Oh, and a Awana on Wednesday. Yeah, that's extra.
Not Awana.
No, but seriously, what got you involved in youth pastoring?
Yeah, definitely. Just loving the kids, man. I love working with kids. I've been working with kids for a while, so doing that and then getting the chance to work for the Lord, it just really made me want to. Yeah, my fault. Yeah, it just really made me want to just get involved with youth ministry. So I have been doing that for a couple of years. Kids Across America in Branson, Missouri.
KAA.
You know.
People that work for Kids for America are proud to work for Kids
Wait,
for America.
it's Kids Across America.
I've met Kids Across America.
Kids Across America.
Yeah.
My
Get it
point
straight.
proven right there. Sorry, Trey. I've met random people and just random spots that told me about Kids Across America that, just unsolicited. I was like, oh, dope, thank you. And it was dope. They seem real proud of it. So
Yeah.
I can see.
All real Christians come from Kids Across
Or
America.
baptized in the lake of Minnetonka.
Yeah,
right there, right outside.
Yeah, right outside of Golden.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you, sir, for blessing our episode today. Shout out to Rel. He couldn't make it today, man. We're going to hold you down. And shout out to FK. We have not been back in season 2 yet, but prayers for Fred and his family as they battle some personal corona issues, man. But as soon as that space becomes, a little safer, we'll return. But still love y'all. Still love y'all over there, and still miss y'all. But yeah, let's get into the topic.
Let's get to it.
This is, look at Trey. He's like grinning from ear to ear. This is like right up his alley. Episode 1 of this season, we posed a question just in conversation.
And you know what? It was Whitney, actually.
It actually was Whitney. Whitney, you want to introduce the topic?
Yeah, Whitney posed the question.
Y'all was like a deer in the headlights. Anytime we call it, me?
Because Whitney does this thing where she's like, I'm not going to talk. And then 30 minutes into the episode, she be talking.
I don't have thoughts initially. And then I hear y'all thoughts, and then I say, okay.
Now I got some thoughts. Fair enough. Okay, I'll introduce it. One of us sounds like Whitney or Trey. I thought it was Trey, but it might have been Whitney.
It was Whitney.
First of all, it wasn't me, I can assure y'all.
It was Whitney. We're going to run the footage back. We're going to roll the tape back.
Y'all heard the topic that it was me.
Okay.
Black people can't be racist, though. That's what we had that debate at the crib. Can black people be racist?
It's
We're
called.
gonna have an episode on that one.
So the question was posed: can black people be racist? I know it's one of those. Like that's your immediate answer. Just, It's not even a yes or no. It's just let me marinate on that.
Yeah.
and you might have some initial thought. I know what I think initially, but I want to talk through it with my people here.
Should we go through our initial thoughts?
You want to go through initial
Yeah,
thoughts?
go. Yeah,
So,
start us off, Chris.
Lightning round, yes or no. Everybody just yes
Okay.
or no.
See this and
This is
watch
how we started.
This is how we started. See, this is how we started. Yeah, it was her.
I think that's a good idea though, so you're not swayed. I like that. I like
Say
that.
everybody's name, and when I say your name, ain't no hesitation.
See,
You know I struggle with these, right?
You got this. I believe in you.
Start with Chris.
All right. Starting with Wesley.
Oh, all right, let's get
Yes or
it.
no? Can black people be racist? Yes or no?
Yes.
Chris, can black people be racist? Yes or no?
No.
No. Amber, can black people be racist? Yes or no?
No.
Trey, can black people be racist? Yes or no?
Hell no.
To the non.
Whitney.
Can black people be
Whitney.
racist?
She said no.
Oh, you said no. Okay, I'm about to
So
say.
we are 4-1 in
4-1,
the
man.
preliminary rankings, in the preliminary vote.
You can't switch sides either.
I mean, I'm not gonna say that.
Hold on now.
No, because that's the
No.
reason.
It's a
No.
Right. That's the
No.
reason why you have
Wesley,
intellectual
you walk-
conversations.
Nope. If you walk up the hill, be prepared to die on it like my savior.
I am
That's not the same thing. That's not the
prepared
same
to
thing.
die on it if it's correct. If it's
Right.
the right hill, But I ain't just gonna stay on the hill just because I'm gonna stay on the hill.
Right.
You know.
You ain't trying to be like Jesus. It's cool.
Trey just want to argue. He said, don't change your mind.
Let's fight. I chose violence today.
I chose it every day. I brush my teeth and I look myself in the mirror and I ask myself,
What we choosing today?
am I choosing violence? Overwhelmingly. Hell yeah.
Overwhelmingly and respectfully
only,
violent.
Respectful violence.
Okay, so I feel like the best way to start this conversation, since we have one contrary opinion, is to let you lay the foundation of why you believe black people can be racist.
Chris, let's scoot over a little
You
bit.
scoot over just a little bit
To the left.
To the
Oh,
divide.
wow.
Yeah. And then Wesley, if you could just. Yeah.
That's fine.
No, I'm just messing with you. But no, just give me some background into your thought process.
Yeah, man. I think that the conversation is super interesting, just to start with. And I think that the way that you define terms will really determine what direction you go in the conversation.
Okay.
Because if my definition of racism is different than your definition of racism, then we're going to have two different opinions. And you guys are going to, you're going to have a totally different thought than I am. And so I think for me, the reason I say that black people can be racist is because when I think of racism, I'm thinking of somebody who has or is exhibiting thought processes or even actions that or making saying things in their speech that has something to do with one group of people being better than another group of people based on their race.
Okay. So if I'm hearing you correctly, you're saying that your definition of racism is...
Y'all got the phones. What's this? Y'all got
Oh, no,
dictionary?
no, no, no,
Hold on.
I mean, we have to give a starting point. you know?
Yeah, you're right. This is a
So-
good starting point for this conversation.
So you're saying your definition of racism is one category or group of people acting like they're better than, or treating other categories or group of people like they're better than them because of the color of their skin,
or even the thought process,
or their thought or their mentality behind their superiority,
right?
being tied to the color of their skin. Mm-hmm. Okay, I understand your definition. So with that as your basis of a definition, I want to read just the Merriam-Webster's definition of racism.
He's a white man.
Let's see what he had to say about racism.
Come
But
on.
yes,
Everybody outside of me,
yes. Tell me what the white man tells you about racism,
they
Chris.
say a belief that race is a fundamental determinant of human traits and capacities, and that racial differences produce an inherent superiority of a particular race. Okay, that's one definition. Also, behaviors or attitudes that reflect and foster this belief. Okay. I want to read that again for the people. A belief that a race is a fundamental determinant of human traits and capacities, and that racial differences produce an inherent superiority of a particular race. Okay. So, Whitney?
I just have a question about the definition. So, do you have to believe, so in order for black people to be racist by that definition, do they have to not only not like another race? So I say it's not enough that you just don't like white people.
Right.
Right. Do you have to also believe that black is the superior race over everybody else? Like, is it? I think to Wesley's point, is it a matter of not only believing? Because I think there's 3 ways that people define racism, right? Either, like Wesley said, right, it's just a matter of you believe that your race is better than somebody else's, right? Which is kind of what the first part of the definition said. Then there's always the stance that you can't be racist unless systemically you have the ability to oppress another population, right? Mm-hmm. And then third, this is interesting because this is adding in a caveat of you have to also believe that your race is better than everybody else's, superior than everybody else's, right? So if you just don't like white people, is that prejudice just for the terms of conversation?
Yes, I would say I would call that bias or prejudice traits instead of racism.
Instead of racism.
And why exactly? And so again, why exactly would you say it's not racist?
Because in Whitney's example that she just gave, if a black person doesn't like a white person, but the feelings aren't tied to feelings of superiority because of their race, then it isn't racism. It could be something else. It can fall into categories of bias or prejudice, but superiority speaks to a mentality of greater than, better than. There are a number of mindsets that can feed into people selecting people based on race that have nothing to do with maybe superiority. So I think that's kind of maybe what she's getting at in terms of the difference between a racist situation or something that will fall into another category.
And I think too, it's important for me. I think it's important to remember too that like the superiority that you speak of, in order for it to be racism, needs to not just be in theory but also truth. And even though you don't like, I necessarily don't think that white people are superior to black people or to Asians or to Hispanic people, but we live in a society that treats us that in the way that they do, you know? And so I believe that black people can be prejudiced. Yes, I know prejudiced black folks. I believe black folks can be bigots. Yes, I'm not saying that. And I'm not saying that there are not black people who don't believe that they are better than other people because for the simple fact that they're black. I have come across black people like that. And in high place at Howard University, for instance, let's say that. Let's talk that.
Did you go to Howard?
I did.
Okay.
For graduate school,
Black
and
excellence.
you know,
they got some prejudices up there.
you know, a lot of black people. You know,
They uppity.
You know,
They uppity,
you
bro.
know,
They
but it's
uppity
not
at
even
Howard?
on the cool though. On the cool, it ain't even the uppity folks. It's the you know, militant.
The hoteps.
folks. Yeah, that, I was
It's
trying
the
not to- I was trying
hoteps,
to-
dog.
but
I
it's
knew
that
where you was going.
hoteptry, you know?
At HBCUs, it's either the uppity folks or it's
Or
the hoteps,
hoteps,
bro.
them
It's
Dr. Umar's big brother.
African only
It's for
live.
black people anyway. Africans only.
I got a confession. I kind of like Dr. Umar.
But here's the thing.
Get that out.
He has.
He does have
has
a place.
points, but sometimes his points go too far.
Often
and
they go too far, but
in the
I think he's fun to listen to.
Oh, he's
You know what
funny.
I'm saying?
He's
I think
He's
fun to
hilarious.
listen
Yeah,
to.
he's very
He's funny.
entertaining.
he's definitely.
But I think that when I think of racism and what racism means to me, racism at the root is about power and it's about a hierarchy. And when you, as if a white person says something or does something to me based on the color of my skin, it affects me in a way that if I were to say something or have an opinion about them because of the color of the skin, it doesn't affect them in the same way. For example, if a slew of white folks think that all black people are, you know, looters and, you know, thugs and criminals and all this stuff, then you see laws change. You see people police differently. We see this happen all the time. For example, when we were just talking about just in conversation, the difference between the Black Lives Matter protests and then the difference between white folks who are
Mad at Mask.
who are taking over a whole the Capitol. A federal building.
What police?
Literally.
In the nation's capital.
Literally. And not in the
This ain't-
response.
all under their desk.
This is not
Hide
Austin.
it.
This is not Austin.
This is the Washington,
They guard the
DC.
airspace.
Washington,
They
DC.
guard the air, my nigga.
And everybody knows. And if you listen, I would like to have a conversation with the person who thinks that would have been handled differently had that been, or that would have not been the same, or that it would have been the same outcome had there been a group of black people, and it would not have. We wouldn't have gotten past the fence.
First of all,
through the
they
doors.
put a fence up a month prior when it was black people.
Exactly.
They put fences up.
Exactly.
A perimeter, or you ain't even coming a mile in.
For peaceful protesting, right? For
hymns.
marching, singing hymns, peaceful protesting, and you got people literally come knocking down the door, waving the fofo, and they up in there like, and so to me, that difference in response, that difference in ability, that is what sets aside racism, because now you have systems that are built around that, and school systems, prison systems, even before you get to the prison, the court systems, jobs, the way that we are hired, redlining right now,
lending practices,
food deserts right now. Even when there's a big thing going on about how people's houses are rated or are worth different
appraisals. Yeah,
oh yeah, I saw that.
If they're black than if they're white, and people have been taking down their pictures and then saying, like, having different people present their white friends present their house and getting more money for the appraisal for their homes.
If I ever sell the house, I'm getting some stand-in.
Exactly. And so that is racism. That is internalized, or that is structural racism.
Systemic.
It's systemic racism. Now
it's conceptualized.
Now when you have
all those words,
black folks, I think we all know an old black person who maybe even a young black person who, based on their experience, would be like, nah, I don't trust white folks, and white folks this, white folks that. That's a prejudice.
They
Maybe
my family.
Mine too. And based on their experience, it's white folks are this, white folks that, all of that. And that's, even though it's based on experience a lot of times, that is still a prejudice that you have, because you feel that they are not worth what you were worth because of their skin color or their traits.
But I think even in that context, you still gotta like talk about like what's the difference between having a bias or a bias or a prejudice, and then what is a reality that's bred from experience. Because just because I have an experience and I say, hey, I don't like McDonald's, that don't make me prejudiced. But like every time I go to McDonald's, I get sick. That don't mean I hate McDonald's. That just means my experience with McDonald's has bred a certain reality. In that same token, I don't necessarily think that every black person that says I don't trust white people is prejudiced, because sometimes their reality has only given them certain experiences with white people that only tells them that, hey, you can't trust this person, this type of people. And so and if you just take that to the bigger question, I think context matters, because you can try to take a lot of different definitions and apply it to racism. But the only one that matters is the one that we've experienced in America. So that's that, and that's the only one that matters, because from its inception, even if you go back and look at like the Boston Tea Party, right? You go back and look at what them people wanted to do. They were basically saying like, nah, we want to do what we want to do. We want control of our own, little taxes. We don't want to pay all that tea stuff. We ain't trying to do all that. Yeah.
We're not paying for this tea.
We chose violence over tea.
Right, there you go. Yeah. Respectfully,
yeah.
So even when you look at that, it's like they want to do what they want to do, and they wanted to create a system in a country, in a place where they can live that benefited them.
Okay.
So now when you come back and look at how they brought slaves to America, how they set up everything, even how they started laws, and even when they freed the slaves, quote unquote, even when you look at laws and like everything, like 3/5 compromise, all of that kind of stuff, sharecropping, it all goes back and it has created a context of racism that is exclusive to America, and it is solely based on power.
Yes, sir.
We've never seen racism displayed in any other context in America. Now, you could definitely say, hey, look, what about if you look at other countries? I can't speak to that. I ain't grew up nowhere else. I grew up here.
Yeah.
And I see it every day, every single day.
Okay. I want to swing it back to Wesley real quick.
Yeah, Trey, I had a clarifying question. So,
okay, clarifying question.
What I think I heard you say was that, if somebody has a certain set of experiences that has birthed a reality for them, you know, in your example being, if, you know, black people have had these interactions with white people and it's kind of created a reality for them, you wouldn't necessarily call that prejudice.
Not right off the bat, no.
Okay.
Not saying it's never prejudice.
Right.
But I'm saying I wouldn't just go out automatically and say, oh, that's prejudice, because I think that's that's insensitive to their own experience, right? Because again, if you only have one reality, how can I tell you you're wrong for developing that mindset? Now, on that same token, I'm not gonna sit here and let you be like, oh, white people are evil. That's not the case. You know what I'm saying? That's definitely not the case. But also, you definitely have to take that into consideration when you're looking at certain situations, and you hear people say, oh yeah, like, I don't trust white people. I'm not gonna say you're a bigot or you're prejudiced towards white people. I may just say, hey, look, I get and I understand you have these experiences, but let me tell you about some of the white people I know, some of the white friends I have, and how they have treated me with respect, with dignity, and let you know that, hey, although you've only experienced this one type of person, you know, there are other people out there that look like them that are actually good people. It's the same way if you had a friend that went through a bad breakup and was like, I'm done with women, all women are bad. You wouldn't be like, yeah, you're right. No, you'd be like, nah, bro, like, you know, the one you was dealing with,
She might have been crazy.
she probably wasn't the best. You know what I'm saying? And that doesn't make his reality any less true, but you also can't just say, oh, he hates women because he had one bad experience with them. His experience has created a reality. You have to then open up their experiences so their reality can be widened a little bit.
Okay,
And I want to say, like, I think there's this element of reality that comes into play when you talk about cultural differences, right? Like, it's not certain things we find to be stereotypical, but if a stereotype is true, it's just a fact, right? So when you think about culturally, when people group up together since biblical times, right, there's always been one dominant culture, right? One culture that was subservient, meaning that culture was there or put into place in order to either serve or work for or build the cities of whatever culture was at the top. Hold on. And cultures all have...
You say subservient, I say oppressed. But.
Oppressed, right? You can,
I'm about to say...
oppressed. You can... No, that's fair, right?
Yeah.
I'm just saying that you have...
It's levels to
right?
this.
I got you.
And then on top of that, cultures do have very specific traits that are unique to them, right? So if somebody says all of the black people that I have come across have been lively and boisterous, they wouldn't be wrong, right? That is a trait of black culture, right? That doesn't mean that all black people are lively and boisterous.
True, everybody.
But that means as a culture, we are deeply soulful, deeply artistic, deeply in tune with the arts and thoughts and emotions and things of that nature, right? Yep. If somebody was to say Americans, white Americans namely, are quite prideful and very, very...
patriotic.
Not even patriotic. What do you call it when somebody's willing to do anything they want to get what they want?
A bit ambitious.
Conniving.
Ambitious.
I had a lot of negative adjectives.
Cutthroat. Maybe you can... I don't know what you would call it, but white people are willing to... White Americans are willing to take what they need. If that's
by any means.
That's not a false narrative right now. Of course, white people today can say, well, I'm not willing to do that, right? But there's always individuals in each subsection that stick out from the crowd. But to what level do you truly just have cultural traits that are, in fact,
very
traits
true
of a culture?
to that culture.
You know what I mean? Like, I think we do a lot to try to eliminate those. I think the question of can black people be racist, I don't want to say it's irrelevant, because I think every culture has its own thought processes on every other culture, right? Like, that's just human nature because there are differences there. But I think to AG's point, the question is, what can black people do with their racism, right? Maybe in America, right? Because maybe in somewhere else where it's not necessarily that blacks have ever been enslaved or that they have unequal power to whites, well, then maybe it's just beef between the two nations, right? But to what do we call racism? I think it's a question. Right. Like, I think just because you have a belief or a stance about a group of people, it doesn't make it wrong, and it doesn't necessarily make it untrue.
So for me, it's the ism of the word that makes it not applicable for us in terms of us being able to be racist or show racism, because ism makes it like part of the institution, part of the power structure that is currently.
So white social construct, my brother.
That's just one aspect of ism.
I know. There's others. There's
there's
classism. There's sexism. There's genderism.
No, I'm saying just an ism in and of itself. Like a construct. It doesn't necessarily have to be like a system for it to be an ism.
I know that. I'm not saying it has to be a part of the structure, but I'm saying if it is.
In America, he's saying it is.
What I'm saying is, in America, very true. If there's only one group of people who can display power based on a superiority of thought based on race, and that group of people would be the people who are in power. Well, if you look at who are the group of people in power in this country, then those, by and large, are the people who can thus be racist or, display racism because they can use the superiority of the race in the racism to their benefit.
The ability to oppress.
The ability to oppress is essentially what I'm explaining.
I see Wesley shaking his head, and I'm interested to know what's turning in your wheels, brother.
Yeah, it seems like you're saying, and again, it definitely goes back to the definitions and everything. But it's like it seems like you're saying unless you have the ability, the power to oppress a group of people, then you cannot be racist.
Yeah.
And I just don't know if I and I get that. I get what you guys are saying. I just don't know that I agree. Again, I think that the system of oppression is built because there are people who have like kind of like what I know I've heard you guys like saying is like there's people. It starts off with an idea, right? And the idea is what's racist at its core, right? This idea or this thought process is racist, and based off of that thought process, based off of that idea, it'll go forward and it can become a system if you link up with enough people that have enough racist thoughts. You know what I mean? Because the question is, can black people be racist? Not can black people have a racist, like a system of oppression. Like racist is something that a person is personal in the way that the question is even worded. Like it's not saying like, can black people create a power structure that's going to oppress another group of people?
So let me be fair, because I do believe there are very, very few minute niche instances where black people can be racist, but there's
name example of that. Name them.
Name them. Okay.
I vehemently disagree already.
It could. I mean, that's what I'm saying. I feel like they don't occur at enough rate to acknowledge and say that black people can be racist.
Give me one example.
Saying is, okay, so let's say there's a black business owner, and he hires one person over another, but just because he thinks black people are better, maybe at a specific aspect of the job than white people. And he could be very right in that sense, right? But if he chose it based off this purity of his thought, based off race, then he is in fact using his race to affect somebody else's livelihood versus somebody else, which is like a very minor microcosm of racism.
That's an oversimplification, but
I would push back on that a little bit, though. I would push back because if that person didn't get hired at that job, there are millions literally of other jobs that person would still be able to get hired at without being
You're talking about in the context of America.
Yeah, in the context, and all of this is what I'm talking about in the context of America.
I'm about to say, we gotta stay in the context.
As a small just pen, I've actually thought about can black people be racist in parts of Africa?
That's facts.
I think about that all the time. But in America, if one black person doesn't hire this white man because he's white, that white man can then go to the 15 other businesses on that street and not be impacted by the color of his skin.
And what I'm saying is I think those two facts are both true, but yet independent of each other. I think the black person who is the business owner, if he chose another African American or another minority based off he thinks that they're better, not because of what you're saying. What you're saying is essentially balancing the scales, which I would say, which I understand, which falls into Trey's point of it's a actual result of racism that we are trying to battle, right? So there's a difference between balancing the scales, saying my brother here, I can hire him, but these other companies not gonna hire him. I'm saying that he thinks that the black person is better than the other white person because of something he thinks about black people versus white people. That is a racist thought exercised in a microcosm. So it's very minute in how many black people are out here with this type of power.
So the only
hire. That's why I'm saying all these reasons. I feel like these instances are very, very minute
So, but even in that context, let's say you own a clothing store.
Okay.
And like you are the owner. You're hiring. You're like, I'm only hiring black people.
Mm-hmm.
You don't. A white person applies. They qualified. They got experience, all that kind of stuff. You're like, nah, I'm only hiring black people. I mean, you don't tell them, but you only hire black people.
Mm-hmm.
To say that is racism would mean,
I didn't say that was racist.
Or to say that's racist.
I didn't say that was racist. I said that was balancing the scales.
You said that was balancing the scales. Okay, but even because I think Wesley's shaking his head. So I think Wesley, would you agree that would be racist?
Finish what you're saying.
Okay, yeah. So if you were to say that is racist, that would also be saying that black business stands alone on its own in a whole industry, when that is not the case. That white person can go and find gainful employment
Absolutely.
very easily.
I agree. Which is why I said
so like even in the concept of black business, right? Because how many black people really own 100% of their business? We're seeing a lot more of it now because of virtual marketplaces and people don't have to like lease buildings and stuff like that. But even if you were to go that deep into it, you know what I'm saying? That even brings a whole nother like element to it. But the point I'm trying to make is that white person can go find
Very true.
another job in just about any industry.
He can.
Very easily.
Or she can.
And I would add that because racism played out in America the way that it did, right? Black people have to catch up, right? So when you think about diversity hiring initiatives at companies or affirmative action programs for schools, right? You think about people are trying to intentionally close the gap that was put into place by white people. So even if that black business owner says, I'm hiring only black people because I'm trying to close a gap, it's rarely that a black person, and I'm willing to double down on rare, just sheerly makes the decision like that based off of like, I only rock with my kind and like black power.
That's
Like,
fair. Yeah,
it's very
that's
often
fair.
that they make the decision and they say, I want to hire black boys who won't get hired somewhere else. I want to empower black college students that are coming from a different place, right? And so I think,
or they're hiring people that they're hiring in situations where, unfortunately, black people relate best to the people that they're serving.
True.
So
Or
it's not even about like I think black people are better. In some of these situations, it's like black people are actually essential. You being black is essential to this job.
right.
And I'm not talking about any of those situations. I'm excluding all
But to
those.
Whitney's point, I think it's rare.
It's very rare.
I think, matter of fact, I would even double down on Whitney's double down. So it's a quadruple
down?
squad down,
Period.
squad down. Yes,
Four for four.
it's a 4 for 4. It's a 4 for 4. I would double down on the fact that like you probably won't be able to find a black person that say I only hire black people because I only like black people and I don't want to see white people win. Like most people who are in that arena of understanding like having their own business as a black business owner, those kind of people are naturally in the mindset of how can I help my people.
Exactly.
At the end of the day, in a lot of those situations, it has nothing to do with white people.
It had nothing.
It really doesn't. And to Whitney's point, and I think that's why those organizations are so important that feed that. That's why HBCUs are important and things of that nature.
Support HBCUs, y'all.
Do that, yes.
Please.
But to close that gap is because there is a difference between equality and equity. And I think that so many people forget that. And equality, everybody gets the same. But if you set me in a room, I'm 31 years old. If you set me in the room with a white woman who was also 31 years old, we could have grown up in the same city, gone to the same school, done everything. But that doesn't necessarily mean that giving us the same thing at this moment will put us on the same playing field. Because now I started playing catch up.
Well, yeah, because if you think about it, because y'all sitting in the room, but you took out loans to go to college.
Come
but
on.
She had land that her family
Come
owns
on.
from a time period when white man gave white
Right.
people
And
40
so-
acres in
so
the New
my-
and black people didn't get anything.
And my paycheck is going to my student debt, and your paycheck is
Exactly.
going to the wealth of your children, and that's different.
And let's even say white people, let's say if she did take out a loan, even if you look at lending practices in America,
her
when you
interest rate
if
would be
you
lower.
look at interest rates, that's why you have stuff like Truth in Lending Acts.
Right.
Like all these things are put into place because like lending practices are like predatory, literally.
Give me my 50K, Joe.
Even
That's how much you owe you.
Chris, even if you were to drive around like in a 5-mile radius going like north or more central towards Dallas,
Okay.
you won't see Title Max. You won't see Payday Advance Loan. But if you
money
take
good over here.
if you take 35 and you get off on like let's say you get off on like Inwood and you go left and don't go right, you go more towards East Dallas.
You get tacos.
You get
the check cash.
You got
you
more
get check
title
cashing,
licenses than
you
grocery
got
grocery
payday loans, like all of this stuff is predatory.
It
and so
is.
when you talk about systems, well, who are the people that are in place to put in practice zoning laws? Who are people in place that regulate lending practices? Who are the people who are in charge of overseeing these things? It's white people.
I know.
So I want
What's
to
up,
say
Wesley?
this. Yeah. I want to say this. So I hearing everything that you guys are saying, it's like, to a degree, I definitely don't disagree with what you guys are saying. It's just the way that I view the subject is just different. You know what I mean? Okay. Because everything that I'm hearing you guys talk about is a system that oppresses one group of people and elevates yourself. No, I don't believe black people can do that. Okay. But in order for those systems to be constructed, it starts off with race, like individual racist thoughts.
You're talking about the seed of racism.
Yes, exactly. And I believe that's what is racist. You know what I mean? Like if we're having a conversation on can black people, can they produce a system in America? Absolutely not. But can black people and I'm gonna take it to a biblical spin, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm a pastor.
Come on.
So
let me use you.
So if
This should be interesting.
if we know for a fact that to think of yourself as better than another person for any reason is wrong, any prejudice based off of racism is wrong. What you see throughout Scripture,
Right.
God checking people. To say black people because they live in America can't be guilty of that sin, I think is incorrect. You can be racist, but you can't act on racism to the degree that, yes, historically white people have and created a system that has held us down for over 400 years at this point. You know what I mean?
400 plus.
Huh?
400 plus.
That's what I said. Over 400 years.
Oh, okay.
Over 400 years at this point to elevate themselves even further. Like, no, we're not going to be able to do that. But to individually be racist, which is the question that I was understood we was asking, like, can black people be racist? Yes, you can. It doesn't have to necessarily be against white people. It can be any other people group based off of their race. You can feel like we're better than them.
So let me ask you this, because I do agree to the point that I don't think black people are absolved of the sin of thinking that they're better than other people, right? In some aspects.
Yeah.
I do believe that we still can. While I stick on black people cannot be racist, I prejudice, bigot, like all of that, and that falls into the same category. It's wrong, right? To the way that you describe racism, as it's starting as a seed and growing, that seed now is a full plant. It's a garden,
Absolutely.
right?
And so forest.
In 2020,
Arboretum.
right? And it's an arboretum,
Forest,
right?
nigga.
It's an arboretum.
Forest, nigga.
In 2021. In 2021, since that is already here, do you feel like a black person can be racist because their thought and their seed right now, if they start with the seed, if all of us got in this room and said, white people ain't nothing, blah, blah,
Let's
blah.
oppress them.
Right, let's oppress them. White people gonna be sitting and be
Let's
like,
oppress 'em.
these niggas crazy. But okay, so, and maybe I can open my mind and think back to the start. If it had looked differently back 400 years ago, and black people were in a position, we know that they were not, but if they had been in a position of power or a position where their collective thoughts of bigotry and prejudice could have led to that, then black people could be racist in that sense. But if we're saying that the seed of racism or the seed of being a racist is what sows into this arboretum of racism, if that seed has already passed and we're already to the arboretum, my thought about anything about somebody else of another color does not feed into the system that is already racist.
I've got a question.
I would add that biblically, right? And this will be an interesting topic for us to explore. I really won't even put down my thought, but I'll just pose the question, right? If biblically a clear and widely accepted concept is this concept of bloodlines running through the Bible, right? Of there being a chosen people or a chosen bloodline, not even just in terms of the Israelites, right? But bloodlines within the family of Christ, bloodlines within the family of Adam all the way down, bloodlines within Noah's children, right? And how each of these bloodlines had unique and specific traits to them, right? So God choosing a chosen people and then riding essentially with this one people, right? We don't see that concept get lost in the New Testament, right? We see Jesus or Paul turn around and say, you are a chosen priesthood. You are called apart and set apart, right? You are God's elect, right? For now, Christians are what the children of Israel were. So even if you take it from the lens of you just believing that you are better than somebody else, I would argue, and please let me know what y'all think, that is something that at one point black people were the ones enslaving, right? If you think about Egyptian slavery, black people were enslaving brown people, right? And so it's really just a matter of who's on top socially, right, or economically at the time, and who holds the power in the region that you're even talking about. Because there's several regions where racism can be enacted, and black people and white people are, neither one of them are nowhere in there, right?
Right.
You think about Middle Eastern versus Asian racism and things of that nature.
Even
right?
you take it to Spain.
Yeah.
You look at that.
And so I think
Portugal, Spain,
I think my point in saying this is that the notion that it is wrong to believe that you are different as a people than another race, I don't know that I can agree that that's wrong. I can agree that what I believe is that the notion
Say that last part again. I'm so sorry.
So the idea to think that for any reason you are better than somebody else, or you are positioned differently. I won't even say better. I'll say positioned differently. I don't think that that's an accurate assumption, because that's essentially what the Bible tells Christians to do, right? You should act as if you are positioned differently, right? There is an elect. God has an elect,
I was going to say,
right?
that's of our identity with him.
Exactly, right? And so there's always, even if you don't
Rabbit hole.
even if you don't tie it to skin color, my point is, if you take skin color away completely, even if we close our eyes and just go off of belief systems, right? You'll narrow it down to one group of people feeling that for whatever reason they are the best. And because society works out the way it does, one group will end up on top, right? Even if it's not about skin color. Right. It can be about economics, it can be about cultural beliefs, it can be about whose God is the real God, right? Like there's this constant struggle.
There's got to be a have and a have not.
There's got to be a have and a have not. And so I think in America it's tied to racism, not even because white people thought that white people were better than black people. The irony is, hold on, hear me out.
I was going to say, I think it may have transitioned to that.
It transitioned, but hear me out. The root of America is white people thinking that they were better than other white people. White people in America decided we are better than these Brits. Okay,
I got you.
And then
they
they came over here, trumped on the Indians just like they did the other white people in
Pun intended.
Who's gonna tour this land?
Once they burned through the Indians, right? Once they burned through the Indians, they get ships over from Africa, burn through the black people. Once they burn through the black people, the Irish, other white people come over, they burn through them in work camps up in the top. Then they put the Asians to work under
in California.
Right? So when you talk about this concept of racism in America, I think racism is less the problem and more so is white imperiality, right? White people feeling that they are imperial in a way that they can just take things. But then is that not just a pattern of history?
Well,
it was a season where the children of Israelites was going through and snatching everybody's city up.
Well,
mine.
I want to.
Well,
let me ask a quick question. Let me ask a quick question.
What's the question, guys?
Yeah, and I hear what you were saying as far as the elect and everything, and I'm not exactly sure if I feel the same way that you do. That'd be another rabbit hole like Trey was asking. But I do want to ask y'all this. What would y'all call prejudice based off of race? Based on race?
I'll start off answering that. Prejudice based off race is saying, I prefer to play with black people in basketball because they seem to be better than white people.
And I would add that that's racial bias, right? I think the big point of disagreement is that racism on its own, like, to say that there's a prejudice based off of race, even by the definition that you read, even if you say, well, I like us better than I like y'all, but not them. That's a bias, right? To say I would rather play with a black person on my team, but if I can't, I take Jose too, right? Like that's just a bias. But if you say Jose cannot play,
Okay. Everybody but Jose can play.
Y'all playing because Eduardo Nahara used to hoop.
or if you say nobody, for me to answer your question,
Yeah.
based on that definition, do you just feel like you better than somebody, or do you feel like y'all are better than everybody?
Now-
Does that make sense?
Yes, it
Because he
does.
has
Now, I wanna,
what you say, racial prejudice preference based on race.
but see, now listen, but yes, and I know we read the definition of racism. Now, the definition of prejudice is a preconceived opinion that is not based on reason or actual experience. So it's not like in this basketball scenario, I've played with all these
Okay,
people.
so that's
and they
technically
just
that's not a
trash.
prejudice. Okay.
So that's not really prejudice because that's based off of experience. That
Well,
leaves
it's
that leaves the realm of prejudice.
Well, because you went to an individual and I was speaking to a race.
Can you do racial bias?
That's
Can
what
you
I'm
do
saying. That's what I did, a racial bias based off of a group. Like I said, I prefer black people.
We
white
keep
people
reading
because of
these
my-
definitions written by white men.
How about you define it then, Trey? We'll read your definition.
Go to Urban Dictionary.
What's up,
Go to Urban
Yeah, I
Dictionary.
need you to make a dictionary so we can read your definition.
Golly. Yes, white man. Tell me what you think about a system you built.
Is your system racist? Your system racist?
Why, no, it is not, Whitney.
Thanks, just
Everybody
checking. That's what
except
I
me.
thought, but I just wanted to make sure we was on the same page.
Crying, y'all.
No, little black girl, it is not.
Going back to back now.
Just work hard.
Go pick the
Okay.
cotton now.
All you need to do is work harder. Don't ask any more questions.
All right, you reach your word count
You
for
know,
the day.
you know we don't let colors in the house.
Who taught you how to read this book?
Taught you how to read this book.
That's funny. But I think Wesley, to your question was what do we
What would you consider? What would you call prejudice based on race?
Prejudice
I
can be
would-
based on anything,
Okay, go
right?
I would more so, if we're looking at definition wise, I would more so name that in the bigotry like aspect of things, because it is like I am better than you because X, Y, and Z. Like because of like that's a bigot. That's bigotry. Now prejudice again, I think is like, you know, like
Y'all not good at
I'm
this.
not,
so
y'all don't do
prefer
that. I
yeah.
like this, you know.
Y'all
but
not
people,
good at this,
we
yeah.
have our prejudice and bias, and a lot of times I think those words are used interchangeably. I think that there's a degree, a severity that separates it.
I think bias is when you prefer a group, and prejudice is when you're like, you're
Nah,
excluding.
y'all,
Yeah,
right,
yeah,
y'all,
not
I don't, right. And I think that, but even when you look at, even as us as young adults, right, when you look at your dating life, right, we have our own prejudice or bias.
But
whatever
is
you
it
wanna
a
call
bias prejudice or is it just preference? Like, and I think it's tough.
It is.
Bias is preference.
It is a
Okay, yeah,
bias
okay, I'll concede that. I'll concede
because
that.
okay,
Yeah, I'm with y'all on that one.
you not trying to date a woman that's 6'7", would you?
I mean,
I had a treehouse as a kid, so I don't mind.
Okay.
You feel me?
Let's say
Hey, look.
There ain't no problem. There ain't no problem. But yeah, so in situations like that, most men, like most women, prefer tall men. Most men prefer women who are shorter than them.
Except for Trey McCall.
brown eyes.
Yeah, like somewhere in that area. But anywho, I think that's where we get into everything with. I think the issue at the end of the day, the issue is really semantics. That's really what it is. Because I think that we all understand as Black people our experiences. We all understand that even as I would fair to say that we are privileged Black people,
For sure.
that we have also still have experienced oppression. I think that and at the hands of white people, whether directly or indirectly, whether systematically or overtly versus overtly versus covertly, whatever, we have all experienced that as young Black people in our late 20s, early 30s. That has happened.
So I want to see if I can make a statement that I think Wesley is trying to say, and which I would agree with. Ultimately, I still stand where I started. I do not think Black people can be racist.
That's because Trey
in
punched you in the
America.
beginning.
I do not think Black people can be racist in America.
Pick a hill, die on it.
Now, what I will say, and what I think Wesley's trying to say is, Black people are more than capable of planting the seeds that, if the power structure were flipped, we would be racist because we would have the ability to oppress other people.
So then this conversation is hypothetical.
Hypothetically, we could be racist in another
And I would
dimension.
And at which point I'm like, why are we having a hypothetical conversation?
That's not necessarily my point.
I
But
mean, that's my take on your point.
That's not my point, but yeah, I do see what you were doing.
Sure. Hypothetically, we could be racist. Hypothetically, I could be rich. But guess what reality is, nigga? Like, I can't be racist, and I drive a 2011 Toyota Camry. So
On Tuesdays,
And
you
I-
drive
and
a
I do
Porsche
think-
on the weekend.
why are you
People can be
snitching?
hateful towards somebody based off
Yes.
of race.
We
I
can't
do.
be
I
hateful.
think that
Absolutely.
most
Yeah, we can be hateful,
certainly,
yeah.
Black people can be hateful to the point of sin towards
Yes,
people.
I agree.
Yes,
over
100%.
race, over
Inexcusably.
anything.
Over anything.
Yeah.
I
No,
agree.
it don't take much.
I would argue that that there are black people who are hateful towards other black people to the point
Yes.
of sin.
Look,
Yes.
black people will segment based off anything. It do not matter. If
It
I'm better
really
than
is.
you because my beard connect.
Right.
And this
I'm
is
about to
my
stun on
true
you.
problem
I am
in the
better.
world.
That nigga wear mids.
Are you?
No.
You say you
He wearing mids. Hey, I just bought some Retro One mids. That's crazy.
But I would say
That's crazy.
I like to. I like.
I'm sorry. What were you
I want to
saying?
shout out for
What
all
was
our
that?
viewers
What were you
connecting on
saying?
this show
Trey
today.
just had a moment. He said, dang.
Amber's better than me. It took me to realize, not her PhD, but the fact that she only wears high retros.
Right, she wears Jordan 1 retros, bro. She's already better than me. So
But what were you saying?
I would think that, because I think that's more so my problem, right? Because you said that black people will split up about anything. And anybody that knows me knows that I care. My fight is significantly less lean towards racism and systemic oppression as it is the breakdown of the black household, right? Because I believe that before any group can take any amount of power back, if their household is not in order, it cannot stand, right? This is a biblical principle, and it's just it's street law, right? If your house is not in order, it's gonna fall apart, right? It's liable to attack. It's open for essentially whatever the enemy throws at it, right? And I think black people are in a unique position in America, and this is, people hate when I say this, but black people are catching up faster than white people ever thought we would catch up, right?
Yep.
I would
And
agree.
so to one
I'd agree
degree,
with that.
that is fascinating, right?
Definitely thought you was going to say something
But
different.
to another degree, it is splitting the black household further, right? When I see
Ooh, I see where
what
you're going
you know
there.
what I mean,
Yeah.
like when which is essentially traps us on the level where we are doing for ourselves what white people had to do at one point, right? When I think about the way that the hip hop culture in the early 2000s, late 90s was geared intentionally towards dismantling or breaking down the black man, right? And then I see hip hop culture today is intentionally geared towards giving the black woman this false sense of identity or power based off of her being able to exploit her own body, right? What other race of women is being pushed to show their bodies or to reveal themselves or to give away as much of their womanhood?
Not to be fair,
As-
they ain't got it like that neither.
They ain't
got it like that.
But
No,
that's not-
Chris,
that's not
what
everybody.
tell us what they don't have.
Explain.
Yes.
Use your words.
I'm not gonna lie. That's how you do
I'm
it.
just making a fair point here. Now they gonna be the same.
Tell us what they don't have. Never mind.
No,
Save it for
continue,
Tuesday
man. I
when
didn't
you
mean
teaching
to-
Bible
to
study.
Jump in with my manliness. Go ahead.
Anytime. But I just say that to say, right, that there's this issue popping up where black people are more focused on calling out the white man as our enemy than repairing what was broken down. And so the rift that he's placed within the black community is growing wider and wider, which we don't understand sets us back further.
You speaking
Does that make sense? So
Yeah,
I think more of my fight is like,
I agree. Yeah, I know. I agree with that to an extent. I believe you can 100% do both.
yeah, you can do both. But I think
I believe that, like, I don't think it's an issue with me calling out what is wrong, right? Because even if when you think about it, people say, well, black people, they get mad at Black Lives Matter, the organization, which I'm like, it doesn't make sense because the black agenda from the civil rights era to now has always been an agenda of inclusion holistically
Across the board.
not just for
Not
black
just
people,
us.
Black people, like even when you look at Judas and the Black Messiah just came out.
They had
the
everybody.
Rainbow Coalition.
Wait. I ain't seen the
Everybody.
movie, so don't.
No. I mean, but this is
a great movie, though.
Well, this is a
No spoiler.
historical.
No spoiler.
This is
alert.
historical.
I'm
I'm not gonna spoil, but I'm just saying, like, even with the thought behind the rain, I'm gonna try to comfort you. I'm gonna try to comfort you. I'm just saying.
I thought me and Chris gonna fight.
Oh yeah, you can beat him up. But like even the thought behind that, like what Fred was really fighting for wasn't just black people. He started a rainbow coalition for all people that felt like they were oppressed. So like the black agenda, when we fight for things, we're not just fighting for ourselves. Now it just so happens that America has kept their foot on our neck since its inception, so we constantly are at the forefront of this fight.
Task force.
You know what I'm saying? So even that, like I get how that comes across, but like black people have been experts at duality. Like we've always been able because we've been forced into this area where we have to take care of the home, where we have to go out and secure financial security, not just for now, but try to catch up and then leave something behind for our people.
Right.
And we've also been forced to also fight for other people. Like when you think about it, people of color, I'm not even going to just limit it to black people, but people of color are always at the forefront of these movements. So I agree with Whitney, but I also think like as black people, we have proven throughout history that we can do both. And honestly, if we aren't at the front of it, it just doesn't happen.
Yeah, and I think I agree with you, but I think my kind of what I'm saying is that if it wasn't us, right, it would be somebody else. And if it wasn't, the way that capitalism and the economic system is set up is
There has to be a
there
lesson.
has to be somebody at the bottom.
Somebody
there has
gotta
to
get
be
this boo.
the employee and the worker, right? There has to be that's just a human nature thing. And so I think for me, it's a matter of, okay, so once you confront the situation at hand, how do you take power back, right? Because in a system where you are not the one that's at the top, you only got two options: to get comfortable at the bottom or to flip your bag and get to the top, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think at what point do black people shift and say, okay, how do we, now that we have enough power, right, to be able to flip the bag? Because you only need a little bit to flip the bag. Anybody that can flip a bag, no, you don't need all of the resources. You just need a little bit.
Hey,
it's a different bag though.
But it's a different bag. But it's
a different bag.
Somebody's
This ain't a
gonna
stimmy.
hold the bag regardless. And I think that
This ain't a stimulus check we trying to flip now.
yeah.
It's just starting to get rich and not trying real fast.
But it is though. Like I mean, it truly is. I
is
think
on an
it's a matter.
individual
You
level.
think when I see how many black people get rich in Dallas, pack up and move up to Frisco, right? There
Hold
are
on,
things-
no, I'm just playing. I ain't get rich.
I got my check.
Amber.
Right,
I
Amber,
just
you up
moved
there with the
closer to
affluent?
work.
What's up? How's it
No,
up
that's
there?
real.
And I'm
That's
gonna
real.
say
Me
something
and my
that's
friends
highly-
have real conversations about black people moving out of the hood when we need to be there the most.
And I think I'm gonna say it because I'm like that. I feel like when people talk in terms of reverse racism, right? White people love to say, "Well, what about reverse racism?" It's not a thing, Lisa.
Does not
However,
exist.
It's not a thing, Lisa.
However,
Karen.
if we're speaking of racism in terms of feeling like one race is better than everybody else, what does it mean that black people see white people as the model, right? What does it mean that we look at white people and we achieve success and think, what would a white person
It's called conditioning.
Where would a white person move to?
That's what
right?
Umar was
That's
saying.
called, but that is called internalized.
That's internalized
internalized.
racism,
Institutionalization.
Right? Oh, I got like what car would a white person buy?
Right.
What bag would a white girl buy? Right? And then black people go and they pour all of these resources into white arenas, right? And so we leave ourselves trapped in this cycle. And so I understand and to everybody that knows me know, I was like, when Mike Brown got killed in Ferguson, I was there cleaning up the quick trip the next morning. But after so long, right? It's like, okay, so how do we get to a point where it's no longer just, white people, you are cutting us short at the real estate office and I can't get the same interest rate as another loan. And do you say, okay, well, black people that can get a high interest rate,
Let's band together.
what do we do?
What do you do?
Make some conglomerates.
Flip it. Can we get 10 to come? I feel like every race, and that's what races like the Irish or the Africans
Or the
or
Jewish.
Middle Easterns, the Jewish. They
Asian.
look at black people and they say, I mean, we are.
Ain't y'all banning
We
it?
ain't nobody as good as American white man, quote unquote,
Right.
right?
Right.
But like, y'all gotta just flip it. Like
Right.
that's kind of, and I think we black people hate to hear that because to some degree, people need an apology, and they need to we need white people.
We need a part 2.
I want to go.
I know.
You just said, but I gotta look
I understand
We need a part
that it
2.
would be nice if white people said, you know what, we was
part
dead
2.
wrong.
Right.
We flipping this script. All black people go to college for free for the next 20 years until y'all can catch up for a generation. And we're going to give all black people, I understand that we hope that we want that to be the case. But white people are not going to give that. The Bible, Jesus says, which one of you can walk into a strong man's house and take his possessions by asking nicely? You can't.
Right.
If you're going to take a strong man's possessions, you got to kill a strong man. The camera cut off.
Okay.
Yeah.
We got that.
But I just say that to say, at what point do black people have to walk into a strong man's house and stop asking him to not be so mean?
Yeah, we
All right,
did.
y'all.
It's called
That's
Tulsa.
good.
They bombed us.
So we just never do it
1921.
And on
again?
that note,
Like-
we're gonna wrap it up.
White people has let us know what's gonna happen if we try to.
Part 2
I say we
coming
do it
at
again.
you.
Part 2, y'all.
Find
stay
out next
tuned
time
because
on
there's
Dragon
so
Ball
much-
Z.
Right. So much left on this. Wesley.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate you coming
Yeah, man.
through.
Appreciate y'all for having
explaining
me.
your thought process. Amber G,
Yes, yes.
OG in the crew.
Thank you.
We love you. Thank you.
Always.
Rel, we miss you. We'll see you next episode. Fred, shout out to Fred, FK, the whole studio. We'll be back soon as we can. Shout out to Rome behind the camera, man. I'm gonna give Rome a shout out, bro. He turned out too, you know what I'm saying? My production assistant, low key, you know. So shout out to Rome. Intellect Hoops, all that. Appreciate y'all pulling up, breaking bread, getting fed. Till next time when we talk about something else. We love y'all. Peace.